Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are taking this thing to Minmus. And it's going to be kind of exciting. I expect it to be more top-heavy on Minmus than it was in our tests on Kerbin, but we do need to change our inclination, so let's just go ahead and warp to next maneuver. Jeb can lock to maneuver nodes, which makes things so much easier. But this is going to run out partway through here, so that's something we are going to need to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and burn this a little early because we're going to have much lower thrust to weight once our first stage runs out. So I'm going to burn this at about 45 seconds. So here in about another 10 seconds. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. And off we go. Burn seems nominal so far. It's all good. I'm going to go ahead and start throttling down a little bit as we approach the edge of the burn. Now throttle down a lot as we finish the burn, and beautiful. Okay, so now we need to head to Minmus, right? So let's go ahead, and this is probably going to be after an orbit, but that's okay. Let's just go ahead and see if we can find ourselves an encounter. I need to go a little further than this, since it's after an orbit. Yeah, I thought so. We'll try targeting around here. That's really close, actually. It's going to be more fuel efficient, though, if we just delay our burn slightly. And if I angle this, I'll be able to actually see what's happening. There's an encounter. Is it a decent encounter? Well, we're about to find out. It's a little on the low side, to be sure. Can we raise it, perhaps? A little bit? I'd like this to be a little more equatorial. Yeah, I kind of hate that. Okay, let's get rid of that and bring this down to maybe 905 meters per second. That'll have to do. We can adjust our orbit to try to get into a better plane once we get there. Okay, let's go ahead and lock to that maneuver node. Our time is in half an hour, so we have plenty of time to get there. Okay, and now if I can make my way through all of our junk around Kerbin. There we go. And let's just go ahead and warp to next maneuver. It's going to be a 1 minute and 44 second burn. So, of course, we want to do this at 52 seconds. Bit of a long time warp there for a full orbit. I guess we're pretty low, so it can't go super fast. Okay, so we can go ahead and angle more towards the maneuver node. And then I'm going to go ahead and warp a little bit further. Since we want to do this at 52 seconds, I'm going to bring this straight on down. So just a couple more seconds here. Mark. And off we go. And then for our modules, we're going to need to devise a landing system, but that shouldn't be too hard. I hope. The real question is, how am I going to orient it without smart ASS? I mean, it'll be possible, just vaguely annoying. It is very dark here, and I just realized we did not put any lights on this base. Okay, we're gonna have to put lights on the modules then, for sure. .400 more meters per second in this burn. Let's go ahead and pop over to Minmus so that we can see how exactly our final burn is going to end up. We don't have MechJeb installed for the burn executions, mostly because it wasn't updated when I started this, and now I'm too lazy. Also because we've kind of already determined that the only mod we're using is X-Science, and it's otherwise purely vanilla. Although, Smart ASS sure is handy. Okay, cutting throttle. Good enough. Okay, at this periapsis, let's go ahead and do a retrograde burn. Get ourselves in orbit, although not that much of a retrograde burn. That much is not required. That's fine, though. We don't need to go any more than that. Well, do we want to circularize this? We probably do. Minmus periapsis is currently at 951. Let's go ahead and... Nope, that was the wrong way. Let's go ahead and make this circularized. Good enough. Okay, we can go ahead and warp to that maneuver then. Goodbye, Kerbal. Where's Minmus at? That's Moon. That's still Moon. That's Minmus. Excellent. Let's go ahead and lock to the maneuver node as soon as we pop out of this warp. Burn time is 29 seconds, so we want to burn at 14.5 seconds. Always awkward. But we can get ourselves oriented nice and easily. Clear up some of these screen messages. Boy, is that ever so much more handy when it takes a full day to report those. They should honestly make that default. Okay. So we're going to be making this burn in just a few seconds. 14.5. Mark. Man, is it so much easier when we can just lock to the maneuver node. That makes life just that much better. Okay, I'm just going to, do we invert our directionality here? I do believe we do. I'm going to not do that. I'm going to head to prograde and just do a no maneuver burn here to circularize. I didn't realize we inverted our directionality, but apparently we did at some point. Okay. Let's circularize this. Good enough. And now let's choose our descending... Well, actually, we probably want to do this basically... right about here, right? To change our inclination. Not that way. Let's change our inclination this way a little bit. Is that good? I feel like that's not quite where we want to be. Yeah, that's not quite where we want to be for sure. That's more like where we want to be. Reasonably equatorial. And then this apoapsis is 1.6, and this periapsis is 933, so we can also toss in a bit of a retrograde burn there. About right there. Okay, let's double check our inclination. Yeah, I figured that would probably mess with our inclination. Actually, let's just ditch the retrograde burn. And we'll do that after. Okay, that's probably close enough for now. So that node is in T-minus 1 day. We'll go ahead and warp to that. That's a very, very minor burn indeed. Go ahead and go to the maneuver node. We're going to want to burn this probably at about 5 seconds, honestly, because I'm not going to throttle all the way up for this burn. So now that we're at the node, I'm just going to go ahead and warp us forward a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's start this burn. There we go. Perfection. Okay, what are we looking like with our inclination? I think our inclination is possibly good enough. Where is our experiment control station is a little bit to the south. We're going to be passing basically right over it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick retrograde burn here. Bring us down to about 70 kilometers. Should be fine. Actually, let's go a little lower. Let's go to about 40 kilometers. Yeah, something like that. I like it. Lock to the maneuver node. And honestly, we don't need to wait for the node. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to anyway. So we are now in position. Let's warp to the next maneuver. This is again going to be a very, very small burn. So I'm going to go ahead and warp forward. A little further than that, actually. Okay. Perfect. That was a very, very nice burn. Okay, so you can see that we've matched planes with this satellite here, rather than with the actual truly equatorial orbit. Well, rather than the flat orbit of Kerbal, I guess I could say. But that's honestly fine, because that passes right over it. It's at the correct inclination. So, at the periapsis, let's just go ahead and add a maneuver. And we're just going to circularize this. Should be good. Close enough. Warp to next maneuver. This is going to be a slightly meatier burn, but not much. Hooray, thanks for the free science. So we're basically right over the station right now. We should have line of sight on it. Yep, there it is right there. Only 40 kilometers away. That's where we're going. Well, there-ish. We're not going to be exactly there. Gonna go ahead and warp forward a little bit here. Okay, I'm gonna start this burn now. And now I'm gonna slow it down. We're just gonna sit like this until we're there. Perfect. Okay. That's a nice orbit. Slightly elliptical, but that's okay. So realistically, Minmus is rotating this direction, right? So if we were to warp to, say... Well, we need to warp to this side of the experiment control station for sure. So let's go ahead and warp to here. And yeah, it is indeed rotating that way. Let's go ahead and give it another orbit, or several, actually. Because I don't want to be landing in the dark. That, I think, would be a bad idea. So let's just go ahead and do another orbit. And several more. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and turn up the time warp like this. Okay. Now we're coming out of the dark. And this orbit is our pass. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and do a retrograde burn here. Now, it's going to move while we are closing in, and I don't know exactly how much. So we're going to need to check that. Let's go ahead and warp forward about 10 minutes and see how that's looking. Okay. Let's warp forward another 2. Okay. Now, I would like to maybe burn... That's the one we're going into, right? So, maybe burn this way a little bit. Kind of like that-ish. Let's go ahead and lock to that maneuver node. It's going to be an 11-second burn. We'll see how that ends up looking. We'll have plenty of time to adjust. So at 22 seconds, I was going to say. We need to burn this now, because I was laughing at myself instead of paying attention to when we were burning. Okay. Want to make sure that we nail this burn a little bit. There we go. That should be good enough. Okay, and yep. We are going the direction I thought we were. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and drop in a little ways. Actually, before we do this, I'm going to quick save because I'm always paranoid. Okay. Now let's go ahead and drop in a ways. To about here. Okay. We need to get to up. So, surface, retrograde. Because we are coming in too fast, and we are not very high. We're too far away. So we need to try this again. Luckily, we have lots of fuel. Yeah, just, stability assist. There you go. Okay. Now let's burn over this way a little bit. There we go. And I mean, realistically, this is going to be a huge hop. We don't need it to be this big. Let's burn off the remainder of our speed, arresting our vertical momentum only, if we can manage it. Okay. Ditch that. Get out of here. And now let's sit in surface retrograde, because we're going to need to arrest some horizontal momentum here in a moment. Things are definitely looking better for this approach. We've got plenty of fuel for these hops. Technically, we could just land and wheel this thing over there. That's another option. But for right now, I just want to let ourselves approach a little bit. Okay. This is looking decent. We're going to want to begin this retrograde burn very shortly. Oh, and I just noticed we are pretty far over on this episode. I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in here And next episode, we'll see if we manage to successfully land this thing. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next cliffhanger.